So we're now seeing the meltdown of Letitia James as she realizes her worst nightmare, guys. So Letitia James, she's been gloating all over social media, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, you name it, about just how much former President Donald Trump needs to pay just to appeal his case in New York City. I mean, she's also been constantly talking to the press regarding how she's ready and willing to take businesses and properties, real estate away from Donald Trump. Some experts, even some critics, they're saying that she almost looks excited to do this because she knows that it's virtually impossible to come up with a bond that's almost $500 million. Now, with some individuals who are very close to Letitia James, they're now saying that she's having a meltdown with the latest decision, which came down from a New York appeals court. A panel of state appellate division judges have ruled that Donald Trump and his co-defendants will only have to post a $175 million bond compared to the original expected $464 million bond. All of the judges who ruled in this decision were actually appointed by Democratic governors, meaning that this is an absolute win for Donald Trump and a huge slap in the face of AG James. Not to mention a slap in the face of Judge Arthur Engoron, someone that the former president criticized after the appeals court lowered this bond amount.
Judge Engoron has done a terrible disservice to the state of New York. What he's done is terrible. Businesses are fleeing, and you see that. We just released a statement on Truth. Businesses are fleeing and crime is flourishing all over the state, and what he's done is such a disservice and should never be allowed to happen again. New York State is being battered by his decision. So I greatly respect the decision of the appellate division, and I'll post either $175 million in cash or bonds or security or whatever is necessary very quickly within the 10 days. And I thank the appellate division for acting quickly. But Judge Engoron is a disgrace to this country, and this should not be allowed to happen.
Critics say that despite this ruling in favor of the former president, the damage to the reputation of New York State's justice system, it's already been done, guys. Many say that both Judge Arthur Engoron and AG Letitia James, they've already shown like complete bias against President Trump in what some call a political persecution. Others have even gone so far as to say that this is election interference because Trump is running in the 2024 presidential elections. Now, this is a huge victory for Donald Trump because no one in history has ever seen a fine of almost $500 million, especially in this kind of case. And it's also great timing because the amount that he owed, it was just going up by like more than $112,000 a day because of interest. And this new ruling means that Donald Trump already has the cash needed to pay off this bond. In fact, a recent post from him on Truth Social read that he had almost $500 million in cash. For all I know, he's got a lot more than that. However, lawyers noted that bond companies usually require a collateral of approximately 120% of the actual judgment. So, if we're going with the $454 million judgment, Trump would have had to come up with around $557 million in cash or equivalents, right? But the latest decision also puts a stay on one major aspect of the original judgment from Engoron. That part is where he barred the former president from serving as a public officer in a company in New York. James, though, didn't think much of this ruling. At least that's what she's shown in public. So her office said that Donald Trump is still facing accountability for his staggering fraud. However, a lot of experts have basically called out this idea because there's no victim in this case. And despite this, James says that the almost $500 million judgment plus interest still stands. Now, Alina Habba, Trump's lawyer, reminded everyone that this was the case that James wanted. She wanted to sue Donald Trump way before she was even in office. That was her goal. So she was going to find something. She wanted Donald Trump's money, and she promised that she would sue the heck out of the former president if she became attorney general. Kind of like President Biden promising everyone stimulus checks if you vote for him, that kind of thing, right? Well, she's definitely going by her word. Now, some critics feel as if she's only in her position to attack Donald Trump, meaning many critics believe that she was planted for this very role. I mean, she doesn't necessarily do anything for the people of New York City, certainly not for New York State. I mean, her campaign was strictly targeted against Donald Trump, and that's pretty much all she's going to do as AG. Now, with this new ruling, James, she's also unsure if she can actually take any of his properties from the president. And this is upsetting to her. This is literally keeping her up at night at this point, because that's what critics of the attorney general have argued about this entire case, that Letitia James is fixated on financially damaging Donald Trump. She wants to ruin the self-made New York City entrepreneur that we know of as Donald Trump, businessman. However, the deadline has also been pushed back for the bond amount to be paid off. So what this means is that Letitia James, she's gonna have to wait again if she wants another crack at taking some of Donald Trump's businesses and his properties. Now, in the event that he's unable to satisfy the bond, there is a chance that Trump's bank accounts could theoretically be frozen and his property seized. James has already taken the initial steps in Westchester County through a court filing to possibly take Trump's assets in that area. Now, that would include his Seven Springs estate and the Trump National Golf Club, Manchester. So here's another problem for the befuddled James though, right? It's likely that this New York civil fraud case won't even be resolved until after the November 2024 elections. And the order from the appellate judge says that Trump doesn't need to perfect his appeal. So this means having paperwork fully submitted and ready for oral arguments, okay? So Donald Trump's team has until the September court term to get this done. So this starts on September 3rd. This essentially means that his legal team has exhausted their appeals by November of this year. Now, they've already signaled that they're ready to appeal all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. This is bad news for Letitia James, as she probably won't see a cent of Donald Trump's money until we're well into 2025, if ever. But it's not all good news for the former president, as the total judgment that he could theoretically have to pay could balloon up to as much as $494 million by the time we're voting at the polls. That is, if he has to pay it back at all. Now, if he wins, all of this is a moot point, which brings me to discuss how he could possibly have more than enough money by the time that comes. Just recently, shareholders in Digital World Acquisition Corp voted to approve a merger with a private firm that owns his social media platform, Truth Social. The platform was created as the former president was heavily deplatformed on the then Twitter social app. It even led to him being blocked on the platform. So I kind of guess it was like a blessing in disguise for him, because guess what? With this newly merged company going public, it's estimated that Donald Trump would own almost 80 million shares. And so what this means is that his stake in the company could be worth more than $3 billion. Now, it's a given that he's probably not going to be able to sell his shares until after maybe 6 months, but at this point, he might not even need to, because it's also expected that his eldest son, Donald Trump Jr., would also be a part of the board of directors of this particular company and would probably vote to give the former president access to liquidate his shares before that time, or at least a portion of his shares. Many analysts are seeing most of these recent happenings as major wins for Donald Trump. It's also showing many independent voters that Trump is being treated like a political target. I mean, this is all a political witch hunt, is it not? But what do you guys make of all this? As for myself, I'm gonna continue to give you guys the information that you guys need to stay updated on all these events. And before I go, I just want to thank you guys for hitting the like button. Thank you for sharing this video on Facebook and Twitter and all over social media. Make sure you check out my previous videos. I'm gonna leave some end screens down here somewhere around here. Make sure you check those videos out after this one. I want to thank you guys so much for being members of the channel. Thank you for the super chats. You guys are absolutely amazing. And I'm gonna see you guys on the next one. Y'all take care.